Rosado. This is the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Dios lo bendiga. Este es Reverendo Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Welcoming you to another broadcast. At this hour, we have our bilingual broadcast, our teaching in English and Spanish. So we ask that you be patient as we translate live on the fly between languages. Esta es la hora que damos la enseñanza en inglés y español y pedimos que tengas pues paciencia mientras que traduzcamos de un idioma al otro. Aproveche y aprende el otro idioma. While we're at it, you can learn the other language as well. Es un beneficio de sintonizarse con nuestro ministerio. It's a benefit, an added benefit, I should add, of tuning in to our ministry. God bless you all and welcome to our show today. Let me just add in another little notification here. We'll get started. Today we're going to talk about is President Donald Trump the Antichrist? Now, this is not an anti-Trump video. I voted for Trump and I still support him. And we're going to talk about why that is, but we're also going to look into what the AI says about Trump being the Antichrist. There's going to be some caveats to this, but we'll walk it along. AI is a great tool. It's still in its beginning stages. I know. And it has its problems. So we're going to, again, repeat that. We've been doing a whole AI series discussing these issues along the way, but also dealing with, topics on this broadcast, the religious things that affect the religious world and mindset. But today we have a triple crossing, if you will, between AI, which is what the mini-series is about, and then the Bible, and then politics. So today it's going to all crash together. But we're not going to, this is not a bash video. It's not an anti-Trump. It's not a pro-Trump. I'm not going to do that here. But we're going to look at what the AI says. And then I'm going to put in also, the facts that I know from the Bible. And we're going to really look at that. We're going to look at, is this real? Is this a real thought? Does it have support? And, what we should be looking at, and what the AI looks at, and what people are looking at. So we're going to discuss all of that today. It's going to be very interesting for anyone who's pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. But we're going to deal with this matter. If you want to get in on the conversation, you can do some chat. We're on Twitch at Play Paybox at Twitch. If you have access to YouTube, which I don't know anyone who doesn't, YouTube, we're TSPCI on YouTube, and you look for the live tab, and then and we're also on Kick. In other words, that's where you can contact us through. Others can contact us through Facebook. If you happen to be connected with us on Facebook, then I can, God bless you there from Kenya. We got people from all over. So you can connect with us through Facebook and chat, give you, provide your commentary. I'll read them, This is part of, today we're a little more open than our usual Bible teaching stuff. So we're a little more open to your comments and to involve them. I want people to really engage in this presentation today. So just one more sharing of the link, if I can remember where we were up to here. Let's see where we were doing. We did X, I believe. So just hold on tight for a second. There's just one more little detail that I had to attend to. Let's see. We did that. Yeah, I think we're pretty good on that. Right, and so that's what we'll be talking about today. Anyone want to say hello? We already got a salutation from Kenya. Amen. And everyone else can chime in on today's broadcast. We did do X, so we get that already. Okay, so I guess that'll be it. There was something else, but it'll come to me later, no doubt. So let's get into this today. Is a lot of people been saying that, they, again, anti-Trump. What happens is in this discussion, it gets too political, mostly. And then you have, these anti-Trumpers, which really got him into the presidency. I'm going to also tell you something else. That it is likely that if it turns out, and let me make a little comment here. Remember, in the Bible, if those of you who know, the Bible, the Antichrist is not always the Antichrist. I mean, he didn't start out as the Antichrist, right? He becomes that, after he is shot and dies. So according to Scripture. So there is a death and a resurrection per se. So that's when it begins. That's when the real hot sauce is poured on the taco, if you will. So, but before then, the Bible is very clear on describing the Antichrist, or the person who's to be. It's like Judas. In the Bible, he wasn't a bad bloke from the beginning, but he was the son of perdition. In other words, he was the one that was going to do it. When he was going to do it, he was going to do it. And that's why he's called the son of perdition, because the finality of what his actions, his life would end up being. Not the good things. He did great things. He did good things along the way. He had zeal for the things he believed in, but he ended up on the wrong side of the token, and so that's why where the Bible falls in just looking at the end. Most people don't understand that people and things are called as per their finality. That's another biblical principle. Okay, and it's just what we do ourselves. We do that. We name things according to how they're going to end up, not what they are now, right? So you don't when you put the dough together, in a pot, a baking pan, and you put that in the oven. What do you call what you're making? You say, well, it's a cake. I put the cake in, but in actuality, it isn't a cake yet, is it? It's not a cake. It's going to be a cake, but we call it already a cake because that's what we're trying to make. So we're calling it what it's going to end up being. And this is a common way to, label things and to express ourselves. But the curious thing where that doesn't happen is life. Curiously, we don't call life correctly, right? Because we don't end up living. We end up dying. So we should be calling all of this death. And in fact, the Bible does that. Isn't that interesting? The Bible calls all of this death. It doesn't call it life, because in a simple way to put it, it doesn't end up in life. It ends up in death. So it is death, right? God, through his Bible, through the scripture, doesn't call this life. He calls it death. So this is, and it fits even the way we name things. So it does fit, but we're not calling it right now. I'm reminded what it was that I had to do, and that was to connect the chat with a YouTube chat so I can see your chats on YouTube. So let me take a moment and do that. I'll take a moment and do that, and I'll just take a few seconds here. Okay, and save that, and we'll be connected on YouTube. Those who are on YouTube will can comment on YouTube, and we will see your comments in a moment. And there we are. Chat is active. I'll write in chat is active. Okay. Bravo. All right. So again, we're on Twitch TV, we're on YouTube, and we're on Kick. And Kick's chat is already confirmed that it is working. And of course, we're on Facebook for all of those in Kenya and other places in the world. Amen. So let's get into our lesson today. Let me get into the screen and get that done. Okay. Alrighty. And let me just... Okay, so here we are with the AI. Let me give this a expansion here. Let's go to the screen. Okay, now this is not prepared beforehand. So I'm letting you know I have not prepared this. This is not something that I prepared to show the best of it or the worst of it. No, we're going straight in cold turkey right into the AI. It's a dangerous thing to do, but I know enough Bible to get through the weeds. So that's why I'm not worried about that at all. Okay, and so let's go through this. Now, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about, is Trump the Antichrist? Looking for derogatory things to say about Trump and whatnot. And you guys did so much that you actually helped elect him. I tried to warn you. If you guys look at my videos in Viral Political Machine on YouTube, otherwise you look for VPM and then Trump, maybe because YouTube's not trying to promote small people like myself, but and I'm not into promotion. I could be, but I just don't have the time. I'm busy creating and doing software and stuff, and the marketing part, and it's always been for me a what do you call it? Something that I haven't really put too much time into. Hoping to find someone that likes to do that and has the time for it, basically. I like it. I'm on social media, but it's just the time. So anyway, I haven't, I don't put that time into that aspect, but we go into the development of content and research and actually doing software and things like that. And so I have not prepared what we're going to see today. So it's not prepared. We're going to go straight in, and we're going to see, even though people have their opinion, we're going to get AI. AI is going to give us what's out there. So the AI is going to produce what's out there and bring it to the forefront here. Also, it depends on the type of question you ask. So Of course, you can lead the AI to give you dish up all, you can say, what's all the negative things about Trump that people are saying, and it will give you all the negative things about Trump that people are saying. And you can ask shades or grades, degrees of that question. And it will give you according to the grading that you have inputted into the prompt. You put into your question. The way you frame your question will definitely shape the answer you get. The only time that it doesn't do that is in certain yes and no questions. Is the sun blue? And it's going to tell you no. It may tell you, well, depends how you see it. The sun does emit some blue light, right? It's part of the light spectrum. So, so again, it depends how the AI is going to react to the question. But again, that shows you a little bit about, the types of questions that are asked and really what the science is, So it's just going to depend how, and also you can set up the AI to respond in certain ways, more technical, less technical, more friendly, you can't, I guess, there's no setting for narcissistic or anything like that, but you can shape exactly what's coming out. This is using a private browser right now, or what do you call it, an app browser. Those who know software know that this is a separate browser. It's the same browser I use for my regular online searches, and also my regular use. This window is only brought up by my software. I created software for broadcasting. It brings up all the browsers that I need to conduct certain types of content, all of my content, but mainly the Bible stuff. This is using my software called Social Evangelizer. So this particular instance is only pops up in that scenario. So this is really devoid of anything else that I search for or research or anything like that. So really this AI here is virgin to any type of preconditioning or presetting. And you can see here it doesn't even, the other AI, when I use it, not the other AI, but the same one, this is Copilot. But when I use it in the other window, in the regular window on my computer, it calls me by my name, right? It says my name there. This one says hi there because it doesn't know me. It doesn't, so we don't have history except for those few times here during this series that we have asked it certain questions. So let's start right out with the first main question. And that question is Donald Trump the Antichrist? Ooh, let's have the drum roll, will we? Okay, so what do you guys think it's going to say? Let's go. It has to verify if I'm a real person or not. Okay, verify you're a human right here. All right. So here's the answer for all you folks out. That's a provocative question, and it's one that has circulated in various sites. Okay, it's all right, boy. What is this? And one that has circulated in various circles, especially among some religious or political commentators. But let's unpack it thoughtfully, and this is what we're trying to do in this presentation today. It has the religious context. In Christian theology, the term Antichrist refers to a figure who opposes Christ. Okay, we have to understand what the terms mean, right? So this is a person. Let me fix your screen here a little bit. It's really not in the right dimension. Let me just bring it in a little bit. Sorry about that. One moment, please. Still not good. And the reason that I'm trying to blow it up so you guys can read it, but obviously everything can't be shown. Okay, so hopefully you guys can read it in a second here when I refresh that screen. All right, so in the religious aspect, it's a figure who opposes Christ and deceives people, often associated with end times prophecy. Okay, interpretations vary widely, which is another aspect to this, right? Some view the Antichrist as a literal future person. Others see it as symbolic of systems or ideologies that oppose Christian values. So there have been some people who have stated that the AI itself is the Antichrist. Okay, so again, there's that's another thing. Is the AI the Antichrist? Is it opposing Christ? Is it deceiving? The AI doesn't do anything proactively, right? So it's not deceiving. Now, if you ask the wrong question, it'll give you wrong answers. If you don't know what you're asking, the AI will lead you along a nice flowerful path to nothingness because you're not asking questions from a knowledge base. And I've already said that when you use the AI in its present state, you need to know where you're going, because you're asking questions about where you're going. So you need to know. In other words, it's like asking GPS, how do I get to New York City? But you've never been to New York City. And so you wouldn't recognize it, right? So you're asking it, show me New York City, or how do I get to New York City? The problem is that it may tell you some route, and there may be a shortcut, but you don't know it, and you don't know how to recognize it. Then you won't be able to identify it. Things like that, little things like that, but things like that make a difference. Because I knew people trying to get back home to New York City, and they ended up in Canada. True story. Because simply, if you don't know, if you're not reading and you're not paying attention, you can take the wrong turn very easily. And I this had to happen to many of you. You're using GPS, even the GPS, and sometimes the GPS isn't like precise if you're supposed to turn here or stay on this road. You understand? And sometimes it has done it because some roads are complicated, and even see where the destination, if it's going to veer to the right, or is this the one, or is this the side? And so that's happened to me about like a handful of times, 3-4 times maybe. In certain roads, it'll do that to you. So, so AI is even more complex than that and can lead you astray if you don't know what you're doing. The AI tries to answer you directly, and sometimes that directness, wipes away important things that you were already working on. And I'm talking about as a coder, software coder, you can't be 100% dependent. You can't even be 50% dependent. You really got to watch yourself when you are checking your work with AI or trying to find a solution to a specific problem. You have to be careful, because sometimes it just addresses the problem. It forgets that you had a call to this, and I'm sorry I'm getting technical with people. It doesn't look at the call you have to this other subroutine and whatnot, and it obliterates it, and you go ahead and you paste it in, and you just have misery for the next half a week trying to figure out, well, what's going on wrong. And the AI doesn't know, because it really doesn't have a brain. The AI does not have a brain. Okay, it's simply a prompt and responsorial process. Okay, so it's not thinking about your whole project. It's not thinking about, your whole frame of thought. It's just answering your question, right? And the way you asked it. You can go many different grades, left or right, depending on how you phrase your question. So if you're a person that doesn't speak with exactitude, with preciseness, you're gonna have some struggles with the AI. No, not that you'll see that. You won't perceive the struggle. The struggle is getting the truth, getting the right thing, right? Because again, it's answering your question. It's not going to put you on the truth. It's going to answer your question the way you posed it, realize it or not. So that's a lot. It's interesting when you ask questions to the AI, the way it responded, you have to realize that the way you said it was not correct. You're asking something different. So you have to be very clear in your verbiage, how you are expressing and framing the question to get the right answer. Now, what is the right answer? The one you're looking for or the truth? So that's the other issue. Because most people, if you've been watching this series, do not look for the truth. You're just looking for reinforcements to your thinking process. So when you're looking for reinforcement for your thinking process, because you're assuming that that's the truth, so then you're not going to notice. You're asking a question. It is already biased. It's framed in a certain direction. The AI responds to you and affirms or confirms your thoughts. Oh, I knew it all the time. I knew it. I was right. You see? And you're saying even the AI said I was right. That is really ridiculous. So again, we're not using AI to purport correctness or the truth of a matter. It really does depend on the question. There are questions that produce truthful answers, responses that are truthful, full of truth, scientific fact. That's why I said, if you frame your questions in a mathematical framework, trying to get as close to math as possible, then you're pretty much, safer than most in extracting truthful responses that you can hang a hat on, because the math supports it, right? So you see, so it depends the way your questions are. But again, math is not everyone's favorite subject. And this is at the basis why people get deceived, because you didn't do your math. When you went to school, you hated math. Math was not your forte. I'm speaking in general terms. Of course, there's those of you who are brilliant with math. Math is easy for you. Hey, fantastic. Just make sure that when you're framing your thoughts and framing your prompts or your questions, that you stay as close to possible on the road, and not veer off, because then you're really not doing yourself a service. Stay with the math. Look at everything in terms of mathematics, and you will have a reasoned walk through life, okay? So that's it. It's like I always say, 2 + 2 = 4. All right, so let's continue here with that caveat in mind. So this is interesting, though. There's reasons that the people see it as symbolic of systems, because when you look at Revelation in the Bible, New Testament, last book, very easy to find, just like Genesis, right? These are like the 2 easiest books to find. Revelation talks about the mark. It's a seal. A seal is a sign, right? And it's placed on your hand and on your forehead. And I've always looked at that. I said that it seems ridiculous that people be walking around with a sign or a seal on their forehead or on their hand. It looks kind of like what do you call it? Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And so, and people have been looking at technology, and then anything that has to do with the hand. Oh, this is implanted in the hand. Oh, that's the mark of the beast. Ooh. And anything that gets implanted, like in the head or whatever. Oh, that's the mark of the beast. Ooh, you know. I've always had issue with this, and this is part of what want to talk about today. Is that, you know, you look at things and you try to find something that fits. So what were we supposed to do? Not invent anything for the hand or anything on the forehead just because the Bible says that the mark of the beast will be put on the forehead or on the hand? You know, that's a very simplistic way of interpreting the scripture. And with all the script and with the scriptures that I've been looking and studying for over 50 years now, that doesn't like make it for me, because there's so much in scripture that it's not that black and white. And so this seems to be something that is more complex than to be a simple mark that people would understand it as a simple mark on the forehead, on the brain, you on the head. You have to understand also what is John looking at, the person who received the revelation. What are they looking at? And how much of what they're looking at is symbolic, representing other things? Like the measuring of the temple in heaven, is that an actual measuring that they're going to do? And it's an actual, they got to get is it a craftsman ruler or what? You know, it gets, you see how easily it gets silly when you're looking at it so trivially literal. You know, it has to be symbolic. And so then what does the hand and the forehead, and the way to understand this is that listen to what it say: hand and forehead. Hello? You know? So when you connect the two, what are the things that are connected with both the forehead and the hand? And you begin to understand or to reason that maybe it's not a physical mark. Maybe, yeah, the Revelator saw that, but that was for him to say the mark of the beast, so that, I mean, it made sense to him that there would be a mark on the head, a mark there. But in reality, the real thing may be a type of ideology that's in the head. And also what you think is what you do. So it's basically could be, I'm not telling you how to think about this, but I'm just saying that one of the possible interpretations of this is that it be a symbolic seal and mark, a symbolic, a representing the way people think and do. And because you think a certain way, you do a certain thing in a certain way. People act upon what they think and accordingly to the way you figure things out. So if people have a certain framework, mentality, and ideology, and that will affect the way you do things or don't do things. So that is where I see, personally, this issue with the mark of the beast. So I would not be an antagonist against having technology implanted in the hand, in the butt, or in the head. That I don't see it. I don't see it as that, right? I think technology should not be shunned in any degree. It's like saying the TV. At one time, they believed the TV was the box of the devil. Yet the same, and that was an evangelist, famous evangelist for the Spanish folks, Gigi Avila. At one time, when I was a kid, that's what he was saying. He was preaching that mad thing. And my mother took the TVs out of our house. It had him smash it on the stage over there. He took a hammer to it. Talk about, that guy with the hammer and the watermelons. It was just like that. It was like everybody. It was the box of the devil. And now, and then later on in his evangelical career, he's on TV. He has a TV station, right, broadcasting his preachings, and still is going on right now today. So there you go, right? So again, it's the ways people interpret things. You get too, especially with technology, you guys get too overworked at it. Take it easy. But look at what happened while you guys are busting TV sets and denouncing XYZ. Look at what's going on in the world, though. You see that this possibility, as it says here on the AI's response, this possibility is live and well. Maybe it's ideology. That's the mark of the beast. The way people are thinking and walking, hand in hand and seeing things in a different way, in a way that is anti-Christian values. So then that becomes, so what is then the mark of the beast? See, things change, right? People are busy looking for this Antichrist and some seal they put on to see if you're an American citizen or not, and blah blah blah, and all the while there's an ideology going on, undercover, and that is the mark, and everyone's ignoring it. So that's a great possibility. So we have to be careful in that. Okay, so let's continue. Political and cultural uses. Calling a political figure the Antichrist is typically rhetorical, not theological. It's often used to express strong disapproval or fear rather than a literal belief. So here we go into, if this is true, then the people calling anyone Antichrist, it could be a political, what they call it, character assassination. Character assassination. It could be also deceiving the supporters, the people who think alike, we're against this guy. He has to be the Antichrist, to put more negative things in him. The ad hominem, which means personal attacks on a person. All of this comes together in an attempt to fortify those who believe the same way, and to humiliate and intimidate those who don't. So this is something that's real out there, and that's what the attempt is. When people are talking about someone else, especially in politics, you get into a personal attack. That's a sure sign of dishonesty. There should be no personal attacks. Attacks on the philosophy, on their perspective, on what they said, during the debate, what they did, actually did, proven, not just people thinking he did that or he's guilty, he has to be, all this stupidity. All of this stuff is just simply nonsense. But people who are intimidated by it, and people who are moved by this type of rhetoric, right? These people are easily they're gullible, so they're easily persuaded by that type of rhetoric. But then you have those who are more intelligent. Now, the more intelligent will not succumb to rhetoric. And the moment they see it, they identify it for what it is. This is rhetoric because this is not factual. This is just somebody saying, oh, he's this or he's that. It's just ridiculous. And what that does is that fortifies the opposite viewpoint. And this is what a lot of people not understanding in social media, not to say Democrats, right? I don't want to offend anyone. But you guys put out so much of this negativity that what you're doing is fortifying the opposite side, making it stronger. I've said it in all my videos that you guys are making. We're talking about Trump, so we'll point to the elephant in the room. And somebody says, that's right, he's an elephant. He's an elephant. He's an orange elephant. Okay. Well, we'll point to the elephant in the room. And, you guys were crucifying Trump out there. I'm not trying to be, put a pun in this antichrist type of thing. But you see, you do this attack and attack and attack and attack and attack. And what you're doing, you're making him larger than life. And I told you guys, I told in my political videos, I said, this is what you're doing. You criticize so much. This guy got to be a big guy. There's so much you guys are killing him over, you guys are really, dragging him over the coals and turning him around and over and over and over and over again in social media. And you guys did that. And the curious thing is that you already did that and it didn't work. Arguably, that mid presidency there is questionable. I don't want to bring up election conspiracies or anything like that, but it's questionable how much that false narrative really, or that rhetoric was effective. But what it does show, let's say there was no hanky-panky with that interim presidency and election. Let's just say what happened, though, is that your rhetoric got nullified by it, with it. Thus, the results of the last election show that your rhetoric was cut. You lost credibility because of that interim presidency. So again, either the election was what a lot of people are saying it was, conspiratorially, or the presidency didn't pan out to be what it should have been for the American population. Now you have Trump in office again. It's just as simple as that. There can be no greater nullification than the fact that that the country has re-elected President Trump. So that it is what it is. Excuse me. So, and people's failure to recognize it only proves what they call that derangement syndrome. It only proves the degree to which they are, believing their own lies. And that's basically what's going on. Hey, but listen, he could still be the Antichrist. So we're going to still look into this, right? So, and we'll see, what does that mean? What does it mean does it mean that you were always right? So we'll look at it. Over the years, many leaders across the political spectrum have been labeled this way by critics, including U.S. presidents, popes, and global figures. That's absolutely correct. They have been calling the Pope the Antichrist, and every new Pope is the new Antichrist. It just never ends. It never ends. And then now with Trump, Antichrist, and who else are you guys, are we going to call Antichrist? And notice that in all of these cases, we're not looking at if it's an ideology or not, right? We're ignoring that. That's being ignored totally, all right? And we do see that the world is divided. This world is getting divided, okay, simply between left and right. So could it be that the ideology is the Antichrist itself? The ideology? Most of the world, we did this video teaching. I call them videos because that's where they end up being. On the impact of the God of the Bible on the world, on the human race. And in that other video, I think it's 2 weeks ago, 2 videos ago or so, you may still catch it on some of the platforms. We discovered that, the God of the Bible has impacted over 95, 99% of the population on the planet. A very high number, 97, forget what it was. All right, way in the 90s. And I said, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. So, but is the Antichrist an ideology that opposes the fact that the God of the Bible has influenced the world to such a degree, and that the Antichrist is the pushback against society, the norms of society, the way the world is, the way the countries are, who are Christian-based or Romanized. So can that be, the spirit of the Antichrist present in the world? Can that be what is actually going on? So these are things that are very important. The fact that there are Jews that don't agree with Israel. And so then, if the Antichrist is an ideology, then what does it mean when the temple gets finally built? What does that mean exactly? Right? Because if it's an ideology, then the temple gets built by Israel. It's not going to be built by the Jews who are anti-Israel, not anti-Zionists. The temple's not going to be their puppy. So then what does that mean? Right? You see how these things can be very much more complicated than what would meet the eye. Because there'll be a whole group of people, conservatives, who would see the building of the temple and the reestablishment of whatever as great. This is the greatest thing to occur, and not look at the ideology behind, what is the authority sitting on the throne, sitting on the altar, right? Wishing to be worshipped as God, right? Is it a person, or is it an ideology that established this temple, and now is telling Jews to come into worship here? You understand that? So it can get very complicated, and a lot of people can be deceived. I'm not saying that this is the way it's going to be, but it's, it is a possible interpretation, and one that most people will miss. Okay? So talk about invisible comings. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. Critical thinking. It's important to distinguish between theological claims based on scripture and doctrine, political opinions rooted in ideology or emotion, and conspiracy theories which often lack evidence and rely on sensationalism, which is basically what you all guys are looking at. Now, you have to understand, you clicked on this video to watch it. You have responded to that latter. Most of you. Some of you are interested in theological claim. some of you are political pundits, and you're rooted in the political framework, in the political social environment, so then you came in through that. But a great many more, right, will be coming in because of the conspiracy theory that you personally hold. Okay, so this is the basic, straightforward treatment of the question: is Trump the Antichrist? Now we're going to make it a little more interesting. And so this question will be: what are the similarities between Trump, President, be very precise, President Trump's, see, now we got to be specific, but then we divide it into different perspectives. President Trump's, I'm going to say, accomplishments, and those mentioned, or those not mentioned but described, those described or inferred of the biblical Antichrist of Revelation. Okay, that's the question. So appreciate what the question is doing here, right? What we're doing with the question is looking for direct comparison. This is like mathematics, and this is why I told you that mostly you need to stay with the math to have something more credible, more truthful, more to the point. And so now we're going to look at what direct similarities, because AI is a champion for that. It matches this with this, that with that, this with that. So this is math, it's comparative analysis, perfect for AI. AI is great for it. It's like a calculator of ideas. It's like a calculator of thoughts, right? Of people's expression and what's on the in the world, in the data world, and making comparisons is just this basic function. It's the beauty of AI, in fact. So this is a perfect question for AI. What are the similarities between President Trump's accomplishments and those described or inferred of the biblical Antichrist of Revelation? Let's go! Some commentators have drawn parallels between President Trump's behavior and biblical descriptions of the Antichrist, but these comparisons are speculative. Of course they are, of course, and controversial, not theological consensus. We're not looking for theological consensus anyway, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to turn out that a lot of the theologians are wrong. So we're not looking for that. We just want to see for ourselves what the comparisons are. Here's a breakdown of the most commonly cited similarities and why they're debated. Okay. Key parallels often cited. Some religious and political critics have pointed to the following traits or actions as reminiscent of the Antichrist figure described in Revelation and other prophetic texts. First, self-exaltation and divine claims. Self-exaltation and divine claims. Remember, anyone is watching, you can comment on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, you can comment on YouTube, comment on Kick or Twitch. Twitch TV, we are Paybox. YouTube, we're TSPCI. Kick, I think I'm just Professor Rosado. And on and Facebook, I'm Reverend Rosado. But anyway, you won't be watching this on Facebook if you're not tied to me anyway. So, okay, so that's that. Okay, you can chat. You can give me a question that you have or a comment that you want to make. Which side of this are you leaning on? Self-exaltation, divine claim. Trump has referred to himself in messianic terms, such as calling himself the chosen one during the press interview. Okay, yeah, the chosen one. You know, okay, when you look at what he's done in 8 months, like just talking about this present term. 8 months. I think was it last week or the week before we did a video on comparing Trump. No, it wasn't a video. I'm sorry. Yes, I did a post, an X post, showing the AI's response to a comparison between Trump and other presidents. Using the time period in which he's done what he's done compared to other presidents, how long would it take other presidents to achieve the same degree of output that Trump has done in 8 months? And the thing was quite interesting. He has far excelled any other president by far already in his 8 months. So you got 3.3 more years left in his term. That's an incredible amount of time for him to go at the rate he's going. It is going to be a wipeout, total wipeout. Okay, so that, and I say that only, I'm not praising that. I'm just saying that for him to say that he's the chosen one, I mean, it is and his lifestyle, his life, all of his lifetime, he has excelled in whatever he's done. Some people are, he's done wrong things and bad things, but in either case, he's excelled at it. He's just a winner. In any case, good or bad, he's a winner, and in his own, I'm just talking about in his own mind. He's everything he almost like he says about some other leaders. He said, I think, of one leader in Malaysia, was it, or something, that whatever they touch turns to gold. See? But really, he's saying that, he's making that judgment because that's his view of himself as well. He touched the Oval Office and it turned to gold, right? So that's the way he sees himself as well. But does that make a person the Antichrist simply because everything they've done turns out good? And some people say, nah, he's been into bankruptcy and this and that. But you see, that's ignorance for a business person. When you understand business, you'll understand that bankruptcy is not the end of the world. Actually, bankruptcy is a tool. It's a tool for businessmen to gain some leeway and step ahead. So it is not, it is not a negative in business to go into bankruptcy. To see what it is seeking bankruptcy protection. It's protecting yourself or your company from being depleted totally from its debtors, from those that, from its creditors, I should say, from the businesses and individuals that you owe money to, the business owes money to. So you're trying to, and there's different types of bankruptcy as well. There's some bankruptcies that are for reorganizing and getting things back into motion to start addressing these bills and eventually be able to pay it. Some bankruptcies require a court-appointed, overseer to look at everything and make sure that people are getting paid, and even to dissolve some companies at certain times. Sometimes you just got to leave a sinking ship, and that's that. That's a smart business move. Instead of going down with the ship, you abandon ship. So these are not negatives necessarily in the business world. So I've seen that, and everyone's saying that Trump is a terrible businessman. You all don't know business. You really don't know business. Part of the Trump philosophy is, as I see it, not that he said that, but part of it is that you gain by losing. You lose this or you lose that, but you gain a few steps and push ahead. That is a thing. It is a real thing. This is a way of moving forward. In other words, and I have this personal belief myself, my personal philosophy is that if I'm going to fall, and I always tell people this, if you're going to fall, then fall forward. Don't fall back, right? Because at least if you fall forward, when you get up, you'll still be ahead than where you were. So, this is simple, to me, it's simple, positive thinking. And so I don't see nothing wrong. I don't see it where other people see that, what he says on the things that he's done. I don't see anything really wrong with it. It may not be what other people live their lives by, but that doesn't make him wrong and them right. It's just simply a different way of doing things. And in terms of what I've seen most people criticize him, I don't see their tower, or I don't see their golf courses in the world. Again, you don't have the philosophy of falling forward, and you despise people that fall forward. It's a good thing, in my estimation. And again, people can disagree with that. I'm not here to have a fight with you, but simply, as the Bible says, the fruit, you shall know them by their fruit. The fruit always tells you what the tree is. And just simply, he has succeeded where other people can't or don't. And so that's that, and hate him, you may hate him, but in my view, you're hating somebody who has succeeded. And where is your success? Why don't you, instead of criticizing, why don't you be successful too? It's a better thing, So let's go on. This echoes 2 Thessalonians 2:4, which describes the Antichrist as one who exalts himself above all, but it says that is called God. See, that is called God. It doesn't just say that he exalts himself. This is a classical misapplication of Scripture. It's being very specific. It exalts himself above all that is called God, not exalts himself over all, because that's okay. If Trump exalts himself over all, that is okay according to the Scripture here, at least this Scripture. Does not qualify him for the Antichrist, because the specificity is that he exalts himself above all that is called God. So that can include any and every atheist out there. It has nothing to do with it. Because, yes, every atheist exalts themselves over God. There we go again. Now we're having connection issues always. Hey, listen, we're out in the boondocks in the country, so this is pretty good. That we're able to connect here and there. You'll get it choppy. I'm out in the country real deep, so the fact that you're watching me now is great. Really good. Even if it comes out choppy and we're losing frames and this and that, this is really good for where I'm at. And I couldn't do this, for 2 years here. Okay, so let's continue. So again, this is a classic misinterpretation of the Bible. You're dropping off certain parts to apply to the way you're thinking, and that is incorrect. So in terms of Trump being Antichrist because of 2 Thessalonians, because he exalts himself, no, that does not fit the bill. But you see that many people, and I'm sure this is said by Christians, it's said by ministers, shockingly, well, not shockingly, actually, to be truthful. It's not shocking, but it's shameful that a minister would just give this because they try to stretch the truth. They try to stretch it to cover what they're thinking, to fit into their narrative. And that is just not right. So right off the bat, you can see this is not the AI is feeding us this. It's telling us what people are thinking and why. And again, that's an error. Charismatic leadership and mass appeal. The Antichrist is often portrayed as a powerful, persuasive figure, right? So let's just stop there. What are the other powerful and persuasive figures, right? A lot of people mention Obama. Okay, how you doing, everyone? Obama is, even by those who criticize Trump and call Trump the Antichrist, well, Obama is the person that they put up there as the most influential and persuasive figure. And he won the Nobel Prize. Trump didn't, right? So, who's the better president? So, again, who then is the Antichrist if there are other people who are powerful and persuasive as well? And to some would say, well, who are these people coming against Trump? Who's financing that, right? What does powerful mean, right? Is someone who excites riots and protests all around the world, would that be someone powerful? Because I don't think Trump excites or incites, not excites. He may get excited about it, but I don't think he incites protests around the world. But there are some people that do, that have that capacity and that financial fortitude, and that are running protests around the world globally. And there's organizations that do that, have a lot of money, and they do that. So who is powerful and influential? You have to understand that there are more candidates in here than you would think, and most people don't think. So there are others, and it says it's a persuasive figure who deceives many. And now we're going to get into this. Remember, there's a problem. What is the deception? And the issue is, when is the deception? So Trump's rallies and ability to galvanize large crowds have been cited as fitting this mode. Okay, so is there no one else that has done, rallies and have galvanized large crowds? I saw large crowds on No King protest. So if you're going to go by the ability to galvanize large crowds as proof that Trump is the Antichrist, well, I see large crowds at the same time. This is what Trump hasn't done. Now, notice how Trump was trumped out. Notice how Trump was beat. So that if the ability to draw large crowds is your key, and the sign that Trump is the Antichrist, on the No King's Day, just to pick one out, the No King's Day, how many people came out to protest? And in how many cities across the U.S. came out to protest, large crowds, at the very same moment in this very same day? Or even if it was a rolling crowd compared to the time. Everyone at 12 o'clock, but we know that as it goes across, 12 o'clock is not the same across the U.S. But even then, is that something that Trump ever did? Sorry, let me get something to drink. The bottom line is that No King's rally was more than Trump ever did. So if you're looking at who has trumped the Trump rallies, or who is the Antichrist, based on their persuasiveness, you have to look at who's financing and who's organizing the No Kings protest. Because if that's going to be your basis for identifying the Antichrist, then you guys are wasting time looking at Trump. Trump was outdone. That's amazing. And I'm going by what the left has said and posted on X and other places about the great success that the No Kings rallies were. That's what I'm going by, because I didn't see them personally. All right, so there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of things going back and forth, but if you're going to look at a persuasive figure, then you have to look at who's able to bring out people all over the country to fill the streets and to boycott this and that and blah, blah, blah. I've yet to see Trump call in for a boycott. Now, we haven't dealt with that other little detail, because if there's organization, if there's an ideology that can move more people at a single moment than Trump has been able to do, now the question becomes, well then, who is deceiving who? Is there deception with this large mover of people to protest or to rally, whatever you call it, to gather into the streets and exercise your rights, whatever? Is there then deception in that, in there someplace, in the messaging, in the posit, in the ideology? These are things that you got to worry about. You have to worry about it, folks. So you can't have it both ways. You can't think that Trump is the Antichrist because he attracts so many people to his rallies, and then you have this No Kings rally, just to mention one. I'm just picking that out of recent history. You have this No Kings rally with people from all over the country, different parts of the country, all over at the same time, more or less coming out, filling the streets. And then you have these calls for national boycott. Are they the ones deceiving? Since we have established that the person that can move more people, it may be the Antichrist, well, are they deceiving then? So you have to consider that. Now, boastfulness and arrogance. Revelation 13:5 describes the beast as speaking great things and blasphemies. Wow. Critics argue that Trump's rhetoric, often seen as boastful or inflammatory, mirrors this trait. I see regular people who are boastful, and you've seen them too. So let's be honest. You don't need to be Donald Trump to be boastful, but that doesn't make it a blasphemy. Blasphemy is a very specific thing. But again, as typically, when we're defaming somebody, we don't go into the detail. We just want to have the defamatory comment said and spread, go viral. That's all you're interested in. But if you look here, this is another time. Blasphemies are blasphemies. They are not just boastful things that somebody said. It's a very specific thing. So again, blasphemies go against God, direct to God. They are not anything other than that. Okay, so it may be a mirror of the tribe, but very slightly, very dimly, because a lot of people boast. The inflammatory does not equate to blasphemy. The inflammatory is basic political speech. It's always been inflammatory. Okay, doesn't make the person the Antichrist. It's as simple as that. Support from religious leaders. Revelation and Daniel suggest the Antichrist may receive backing from religious figures. So, what president hasn't had backing from religious figures? I mean, if you look at Obama, and even when Biden was running, how many religious figures? You see them out there. You know, their churches. They go to the churches to speak and all that. Who is the one that's doing that? Because frankly, I don't recall Trump going to so many churches in different communities. Trump goes to an airport hangar. That's not a church. But who are the ones who've gone to churches and gotten the support of the pastor and the congregation? All right, so again, I'm not accusing any of them to be antichrist. I'm just saying that this is a misplaced association. Misplaced. Because if we review the media, what you've been exposed to, what you've seen, you see more of the left going to churches to get support than you do on the right. It's what we've seen. Okay? So, yeah, Trump has enjoyed strong support from segments of the evangelical Christianity, which some critics view as ironic and troubling. You see it as ironic and troubling because you are misapplying the scripture. That's why. That's why you see it that way, because you're not seeing the left. You're blind. You're colorblind. You're left blind, I should say. You don't see that the left does it more. Has more local church support, minority support. You see all the minority pastors right there. So Trump has strong support, but the left has more support from these local churches. Not that their members are voting that way, which is what we're seeing. Because I can't believe that Christians, I'll say it right now, I'll say it again. I can't believe that a true child of God would ever vote for within a party that kills the unborn. Can't see it. Can't see it. Okay, and some people get triggered by that. I'm sorry, but I can't see it. That is, now I understand there are cases. I understand. Even the Bible understands it. But when you're talking about carte blanche, anybody who wants to kill an unborn child, just do it. You have the right. You have the right to do it, and all that. That type of sentiment is where the left does a lot, leans on. And any child of God who accepts that, that can't be, you call yourself a child of God, but simply you're just not. That is not something that a true child of God would support. Certain case scenarios, even the conservatives, Republicans agree that in certain case scenarios, okay, it's your decision. But to have a carte blanche program, everybody come in, spread your legs, cut them out, that is not something that a child of God can ever support. So again, there you go. That's the preaching for you today. Take it or leave it. Now, why these comparisons are controversial. Symbolic versus literal interpretation. Biblical prophecy is highly symbolic. Applying it to modern figures is speculative and often reflects personal political bias. No theological consensus. Mainstream Christian denominations do not officially identify Trump or any current leader as the Antichrist. And political rhetoric versus prophecy. Many of these comparisons stem from political disagreement rather than theological analysis. Labeling opponents as evil, Antichrist is a tactic that's been used throughout history. So again, all that needs to happen is for you, everyone listening, is to discredit the people saying it. Period. They're to be discredited. That's it. And don't fear them. Don't follow what they're saying, because obviously they are totally, they are mistaken. I notice I didn't say totally, because we're going to do something now. It will be very interesting. A more grounded perspective, I think you've been hearing it all along. We've been giving you that. It's rather than trying to match individuals, many theologians encourage focusing on the broader spiritual themes: deception, pride, and the struggle between good and evil. These can manifest in many forms, not just in one person. And that's good. You've been getting that a little bit from us here. Okay. So now, let us go even more deeper, and let us show a chart show a chart comparing the chronology of the biblical Antichrist with the Trump presidency. All right, here we go. This is live, folks. Live. The Spanish translation, Bochinche en vivo. Excuse me. Okay, let's go for the reveal. Yeah. Can we get that bigger? All right, this is the comparative timeline. Oh my goodness. See how I asked the right questions? There you go. The Trump presidency. Now this is matching it to the years of his presidency. In other words, it's forcing the Trump presidency upon the biblical timeline. Right? And then, so it'll be interesting if it explains later how it came up with this, but we'll go to this. First, it has his rise to power, the biblical Antichrist. So for the year 2017 would be when Trump had his inauguration. 2017, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act signed. NATO summit controversy, right? And then we have in 2018, or a little between 2018 and 2019, we have what's called the charismatic deception. And up here we don't have a correlating event, no correlation. Then we have an impeachment inquiry begins, and the Senate impeachment trial, right? We have as a match, perhaps, the global influence and disruption, 2019, persecution of dissenters for the Antichrist, persecution of dissenters. Okay, so when did that happen with Trump? The point is that hasn't happened. That is not happening. We have here the Capitol riot and second impeachment happening here in this area here, but that's not matching a dot, right? It's not matching a dot, but it's a period, so it may be in the period of time. But again, what was the persecution of dissenters? If anyone, who persecuted dissenters? Wasn't it the left that persecuted the January 6th rioters? See, this is the point. The left makes these charges against Trump. But now when we see this chart, we see that the comparative analysis, if forced upon his presidency, it falls flat on the left. Their actions are more in line, as particularly here, than Trump's is. Again, is it a person or is it an ideology? So, if it's an ideology, it's perhaps the left. That ideology is the Antichrist, or at least the spirit of the Antichrist. So this is what it's looking like at first glance. It's looking like that very, very clearly here. And then it shows that he lost his presidential bid, and it was supposed to be the desecration of sacred institutions. if he was the Antichrist, that's what would have been happening, but that's not what happened. So we don't have any other comparisons until now. In 2024, it says the final confrontation and defeat of the Antichrist in 2024. And then you have President Trump reelected and inaugurated. Okay, listen, this is getting really, really, really outrageous. So do you not see? You don't see it here. I'm sorry. Let me move my beautiful, handsome persona here. Let me move it out of you because it's blocking now your view. Sorry, I got so many windows here. There you go. Let me move this out of the way. Since we did that first part, let me move it to the other side. Do you not see what's going on here? Sorry, you see where this ends up over there? At the end? Over here? Look at it. Final confrontation defeat. If Donald Trump was the Antichrist, during the 2024 election, that would have been the defeat. There's nothing more to be said here, folks. So when you're comparing, like I said, see, the strength of the AI is comparing, because it'll be very precise. Comparing this to the other, this to the other, this to the other. If it's going by the prophecy about the Antichrist, it will take it, because also with the prophecy there's a timeline. There's a definite timeline that is specified. See? Even God uses math. He uses numbers. So you can't get it wrong, folks. So according to this chart, again, this was not prepared. You saw it. I just did it. I wanted to see for myself what the truth of the matter is. So look. Let's look at it again. This is a place where you're learning here. You're learning how to use AI, and secondly, how to know what the truth is. So here you go. You can't get more truthful than this. This is math. These are dates. This goes by the timeline that the prophecy establishes. So if Trump is the Antichrist, Trump had to have been defeated in the year 2024. But who was defeated? Now, I'm not calling Biden the Antichrist. But the problem here is what was defeated wasn't really Biden, right? Because in the end, he didn't run, right? Do you understand what's going on here? See, you guys have to use your brains. Biden was not defeated in 2024. What was defeated? The left's ideology. So if there is any antichrist here at all, it is the left, because the left is at least the one who had persecuted. He's persecuted the dissenters. January 6th, they're the ones that persecuted, and then they burned all the papers. They got rid of all the evidence. Why would you do that? And then you have the final confrontation and defeat in 2024. Okay? So I'm not saying with this that proves that the left and the left ideology is antichrist or is the antichrist. I'm not saying that. And basically, I'm not saying that, because we're forced to, we're dealing with what the left is saying that Trump is. But based on the timeline, as normal, because usually the left says things and it falls back on them. And this is another classic example. This is how you know that they're lying. There's a lie there. There's deception. That we know. When they say something and it collapses on them, that's what we've been seeing all along. And they can deny it all they want. Again, I'm not trying to be political. I'm just showing you what the AI is saying. The Antichrist, this is a biblical teaching. The Antichrist is in the Bible. So we are talking Bible here. So, but you saw it yourself. Look at it again. This is just amazing. Just amazing. So because the left forces us to examine if Trump is the Antichrist. Let me put move my camera so that it doesn't block most of the text here. So then everybody is stuck, right? So if he's the Antichrist, then the timeline begins when he ascends to the presidency, right? He rises to power. That's what starts the clock ticking and the comparison ticking. But here we see as we go along that the things that the Antichrist does happen for the left more than it did. I don't think it ever matched anything on the right. There's no match. But on the left, yes, the left matches. Quite a charismatic deception would have to be on the left too, because they are fooling many Christian people to vote Democratic, to make them believe that the voting for the left is good. It's a godly thing. All these ministers say, hey, we gotta vote, or these people, they're the ones. We gotta vote the right thing and the right way and all this. A lot of ministers out there. And probably ministers that have compared Trump to If you have, I don't know, I haven't heard. But there may be out there, totally believable, that there will be left ministers that are spreading this Trump is the Antichrist type of thing ever in their ministry. And this is truly sad. But here we see the timeline and the truth of the events and history that have occurred, and that comparison shows more that the left has the Antichrist type of ideology, because all of these things match the left, what they have done. It doesn't match what Trump has done. Okay, so according to the timeline. Now, charismatic deception. So we have to, if we're going by this comparison that the left has caused us to look into and to research now, then who has deceived the churches? Well, and I'm looking at charismatic deception as a religious deception, okay. But in terms of being a charismatic persona and the charisma being deceptive, that's a thing that is someone's opinion. Has Trump been deceptive? And if he has been deceptive in what? So that should be the next question, right? Because let's be fair. We're trying to be fair here and to research this fairly. So let's go there. Let's go to has Trump how has Trump deceived according to let's not make it to what people say, according to high credibility sources, okay, which will probably be including CNN here for some odd reason. But we'll see. Let us see. It's a fair question. High credibility sources such as the Washington Post, factcheck.org, and USA Today have documented thousands of false or misleading claims made by President Trump, particularly during his first term. These include repeated inaccuracies about election fraud, immigration, and economic statistics. Okay, so now look at the deception that they're accusing Trump of having. Now, okay, so volume of false or misleading claims. So the Washington Post fact checker recorded 30,573 false or misleading claims during Trump's first term. These range from exaggerations to outright fabrications, often repeated despite corrections. Okay, now you know the problem here with this? What constitutes a deception? Right? Are personal beliefs, mistakes, gaps in, understanding history or economics, is that a deception? Or is that a mistake? That's an error, human error that people make. And since combined with the already established fact that Trump is boastful, so then it makes it look like he is, over everything. He's right, and you have to take this for that, whatever people and experts don't agree with. He's going to double down even when he's in a mistake, when he's in an error, right? Now, so that's the problem with this. So that's where we're seeing this. Most frequent topics of deception, according to Fact Check and other independent fact checkers, election fraud. This again has always been the hot debate with Trump, that he was cheated out of the election. Was there cheating? I think we all know that in every election there's some sort of cheating going on. I mean, there's proof of that, because if not, you wouldn't have those court cases where people get arrested and get tried and sent to jail for stuffing ballot boxes and going around. We've seen the videos, the trucks coming out in the middle of the night and just dumping votes here and there, left and right. And it wouldn't be the first election that happens in. So there is proof by way of proven court cases that election fraud has occurred. Now, to the degree that made him lose that election, that mid-election, does it matter at this point? It really doesn't. But would he believe that? Of course, because he's a boastful person. He is, he does everything right. He worked hard, for goodness sake, to get elected. He worked hard, really hard. So he's not a person to accept defeat, period. That's all we see. We see a person who does not like to accept defeat. And that's all he is. That doesn't make him bad. It just makes him the winner that he is. Immigration. He falsely stated that millions of non-citizens voted in U.S. elections, and that migrants were responsible for various crimes, including fabricated stories like Haitian migrants eating pets in Ohio, because he picked it up on social media. That's all. Now, but was he wrong about certain immigrants being thieves, being muggers, rapists, being murderers? Was he wrong about that? No, he wasn't. Now, he takes that and blows it out of proportion because he needs to get the point across that we have to close our borders. Yeah, he did that. He exaggerates to stress the point. Was that better than Biden's method of not exaggerating at all? It's just every day is okay. There's nothing happening here. There's no smoky gun here. Now, some people would say Biden's way was better. People on the right would, really disagree greatly with that. But is there a deception going on? Who is the one deceiving? You got to understand that. So economic performance. Trump often exaggerated job creation numbers and GDP growth, sometimes taking credit for trends that began before his presidency. But everybody does that. There is no president that didn't do this. Everyone. Biden took credit for COVID, solving COVID. He didn't do that. Trump did that. It's just a matter of timing. And then when a new president comes in, it's always the former president's fault for the economic situation or whatever during that first year. Listen, things like gas prices, they cannot take less than 6 months to change from any point where a policy is meant to impact those prices to take effect. So basically, people have been blaming Trump for the gas price, for this. He said he's going to lower them, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And we're in the 10th, what is it now? The 11th one just started, but 10 months have gone by simply, or even less, like 9 or 8 from when he signed things into motion, put them into place. So we really should be starting to see relief from high gas prices. These now, from now on, the gas prices and whatnot, these are impacted by Trump right now. They just started to get impacted. So that's the truth of the matter. Now we can start looking at Trump's policies really next year, 2026. We can start looking at Trump's policies as being the cause or the influencer on many things that will occur, changes that occur. Was he wrong about the interest rate needing to get lower quicker? Many people are saying that he is absolutely on point with that, and that Powell took too long to do that. So there's, again, but it can't be, you can't blame the present president within that first year of any situation that's going on. And you can't give him credit either for anything that was set in motion before his term. Obviously, the things that Trump did, he signed into executive order and blah, blah, blah. Those things, if they've already taken effect and they already had an impact, those things he can take credit for. But nothing that came in from the previous president, like Biden did with the COVID issue, and everyone on the left was, oh yeah, Biden solved the COVID thing. And this was not Biden. It was not Biden. Okay. Here in COVID-19, speaking of COVID-19, he made misleading statements about the virus's severity, testing availability, and treatment options, including promoting unproven remedies. Again, these are things you have validity in saying and criticizing what he did and how he did it. I can't imagine the things going on in the White House those days. That must have been a very interesting time to be a fly on the wall. And this fear. I think that the environment of fear that overtook the world, not just the White House, not just our country. I think people being a little too hard on someone that was trying his best to keep everyone together, keep focused on solving a problem while people were dropping like flies. It's, at least he was saying something and doing something, not just saying, oh, we're working on it, folks. Don't worry. Well, that's what you would have him to say, right? Because he couldn't say, we're looking into this, we're looking at that, we're doing this, we're trying this or that, You want him to say, we're still looking, folks. We haven't found anything. There's nothing sure. Just sit tight. We'll soon have a solution. This is what would have been Biden, right? Biden would have said that, right? But how many people would have liked that? I don't think very many. So I think it's a personal decision that he made to at least say something of what they're doing, what they're thinking about, even if it's all out of left field. We're trying to do, because everyone's grasping for air, basically. Basically, that's what's going on. So, again, as a leader, it depends on your personal fortitude and your nature and how you're going to deal with a situation like this. All we can say, though, truthfully and honestly, is that it falls in line, the way Trump handled it, falls in line with his character, right? Boastful. And we're going to get this, and all that, what it takes, whatever thing we have to look at, or underneath whatever rug we have to look under, we're going to find a solution. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But it fits his demeanor and the way he approaches things. He doesn't leave anything unturned. He's going to look into it. So I think that describes Trump to a T. And I think it's unfair, though, to critique him for what he said during those times. I think the media is a little bit too harsh, considering what the fears were at the time. And this difference of opinion. You can have an opinion of, he had to stay this way, so a certain way. But that's really just your personal feeling. Personal thought and opinion, which is fine. It's just that Trump isn't that man. You're thinking about a different man. It's not a Trump. If you're going to have Trump, you're going to have to deal with Trump. So that's basically what happened here. Okay. Patterns of deception. Let's get into some more nitty gritty. We'll be finishing any moment now. Repetition. Many false claims were repeated dozens, even hundreds of times, amplified, but he repeats a lot. Haven't you noticed that? Trump repeats a lot. He says the same thing. Every time he's on TV, you can just watch Trump once a week, if anything, or maybe once a month, because he'll be repeating and repeating the same thing, especially in 1 week where there's nothing new. He will repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. He has hundreds of meetings, hundreds of speeches every week. So what do you expect him to say? Even if I was invited to 100 different churches to teach and talk about something, God bless you, to talk about something, I would be repeating what I said, today, what I taught Sunday. It's the easiest way to deal with it because you have so many other things to do. And, even Bach, I take Bach, I love Bach. Bach wrote and copied the same stuff over and over and over. He reworked it, but he wasn't starting from scratch. So it's something that people do, smart people do this, to save time. Just simply to save time and get on with it and get over with it. So Bach did it for his music. Mozart did it. Any famous creator does it. You reuse stuff that you already had, make it a little different. That's what recipes are. Everything you look at is a different working on something already done. and then, but we're acting like, oh, he repeats it so much. What is he going to do? He has to make new stuff up for every time he opens his mouth. It's ridiculous. So I think that's a little unfair. What comes out of his mouth is not something that many people appreciate. I get it, but the repetition is going to happen by virtue of his responsibility and his position. Okay, so let's continue here, and we'll be finishing up. These patterns of deception have been cited by critics as undermining democratic norms, eroding institutional credibility, and polarizing public discourse. Right? This is cited by critics. Supporters often argue that Trump's rhetoric is strategic or symbolic, not meant to be taken literally. Trump likes to troll, okay? So, yes, he knows that a lot of what he says is going to be taken literally. He knows that. Now, obviously, we're not saying that he's not basing it on some truth. That's not what I'm suggesting. But he knows that a lot of it is troll-like, right? But again, if you're looking at the fact that he has been trolled and persecuted falsely, hello, do we remember that? Almost put in jail. I mean, come on. Almost put in jail for things that other business people say that there shouldn't have been anything to be put in jail for. And even there was no victim, right? Even the persons that were supposedly the victims, they loved it. They did business with him. They know what they're doing. They're not children. So no one was deceived. There's all, so again, you're persecuted because of your way of doing business and your way of speaking and your way of, handling things. So, are you not going to be a little bitter or just slightly? I think that's going to happen. They're calling you the Antichrist, for example. It's a terrible thing. So this is not nice. The politics that we have seen is not nice. But anyway, let's leave politics alone and go back to the realization that according to the facts, the timeline of the so-called Trump Antichrist is not, it does not equate to the conclusion that Trump is the Antichrist. It just doesn't match up. So the timeline is totally off. Now, let's talk about this, for example. Now, we also saw the ideology, though, of the left does match. But it doesn't matter in the end of the day. When Revelation was written, there was a king, an emperor in Rome, Nero. And it was then thought that Nero was the Antichrist. Right? So, and all throughout history, there have been thoughts that so-and-so, this one, as we saw before, that pope, that one, that leader, this one, that they were the anti-Hitler, But it turns out that these were not the Antichrist. All right? And it's like, again, it's like the same issue is that we're not seeing the matches. None of this is matching up. Now, ideology, that's something interesting. Ideology is a hard one because one main factor is this. And what made me think about doing this program and studying this today was that the Bible said that the Antichrist would die and come back to life. And it's when he comes back to life that he is, in fact, the Antichrist. He is then the devil incarnate. Okay. So, this hasn't happened. with Trump. So if anyone, and meaning that the Antichrist before then, and look at the description of the Antichrist. Before then, the Antichrist is loved by almost everyone. So think about that. Was that Trump ever? Never. Never was Trump loved by everyone. This whole issue, this whole battle against Trump makes him not the Antichrist. It's simple as that, bottom line. Because the Antichrist would be loved, accepted by all. And Trump is not. He is attacked by 50%, depending on the week that they run the poll. So he's a divisive. Even the left politicians are telling you that. In a way, they are confirming that he's not the Antichrist. Because they say he's decisive. Not decisive. He's divisive. So even they're saying that he's not the Antichrist. Because the Antichrist wouldn't be divisive. He would be a unifier. But what does the left say is the unifier? Who is the unifier? That's where I would be more careful about. When the left, the Democrats, say that such and such leader, he's a unifier. And that leader is able to bring the left and right together. Woo! Then, watch it. Watch it. Because that's going to be a good candidate if the Antichrist was a person and not an ideology. Now, where do I lean mostly on this? I'm really 50-50 on this. I believe that there is a great chance that the Antichrist is an ideology. And I explained to you before how that fulfills different aspects. Even the thing in the temple, that's very easily done. In the Jewish situation, the way the Jews are now is very easily accomplished or fulfilled. However, as an ideology, you don't have to have someone physically sitting there. It's the ideology because it's already set up for that. But the problem is that dying and coming back. That's a little hurdle that's really hard to ideologize, if you will. How does an ideology die and then come back? So that's a little difficult there. Again, we're just looking at it right now on the fly. But I would say that would be one of the main hurdles to the Antichrist being an ideology and not a person. The Bible does talk about the spirit of Antichrist. So the ideology is more akin to the spirit of Antichrist, which is the spirit, it could be the adoption and the familiarity and the adoption of that type of thinking against God, thinking against Christianity, etc., etc. So I can see that. But for the Antichrist himself, I think more leans toward being a person. The ideology is the spirit, so they go together. So as you saw in the chart, though, the chart leans heavily towards the left. And based on the chart, and let me show you the chart again. And with this we ended today. Based on this chart, this chart shows more probability that the left's ideology is more akin to the Antichrist, to the spirit of Antichrist. And so in my final estimation for this program today, I would really seriously be watching out for what comes next. If the Democrats or the left, not just Democrats, a whole mess of other things there, but generally the left is able to retake the White House and the Congress with the vengeance that they seem to be purporting right now, definitely their ideology is more in line with the spirit of the Antichrist. And it wouldn't take more than that to support a presidential candidate, or for in that matter, a world leader. Because it doesn't have to be an American. And I've never considered the American president as a candidate for the Antichrist because of things that the Bible says about America in the last days. Obviously going against, in battle against the forces of the Antichrist, then it can't be America if America is fighting at the end. So it really does not make sense that an American president would be the Antichrist. But it makes sense that another leader in the world is also supported by other countries, including a majority of the United States in terms of the elected officials, Congress, and whatnot. That is possible. That is possible. And so I would be looking out for that. So my personal declaration today is that, don't look for Antichrist in Trump. Trump is a gift right now to this country. Okay? But be careful, because Trump is preparing the blueprint. There's one thing that Trump would have done, is shown the way to do it for a future Antichrist. So that future Antichrist, that individual, has a blueprint now, and will have it after Trump finishes his term, to do the Trump thing on a global stage. So that's what he's doing a master class. Trump right now is doing a master class. And the person who doesn't know they're the Antichrist is taking notes. And he'll do, Trump did this, how would I do that better? Well, you do it better doing it on a global stage. And that's one thing. Just doing it on a global stage automatically will make that other person a candidate for world leadership, because the Antichrist would be that. So Trump he's not setting the stage. Trump is doing a job that has to be done before the Antichrist takes power, because that's really what's going on. So the Antichrist, if he's to take power, Trump is preparing the United States to counter at the given time that power, that global power, at the right time, at the end. So what Trump is doing now is preparing the U.S. in that sense. And then again, it may not happen for many, 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 many years, if not centuries later from today, which is another thought that I have, that, and it's not because I'm thinking that the Lord's coming is delayed. I'm just saying that there's a lot of universe out there for things to just end now, right? So this could be another Nero moment. It's just a thought. But in any case, our lives will end soon. Some of us sooner than others. And it will be the end of times soon enough. And now we've come to this end, the end of this show for today. So God bless you all. God keep you all. We have a few more Sundays to go with our Sunday teaching. We'll keep it with AI. And we'll also be, I think next year, when we come back online, we will be conducting a schedule change. And the schedule change will involve the Spanish coming back in, not in a bilingual setting, but just the Spanish. So, and I'll do the English, but not at the same time that we're doing it now. We'll work it out. The churches are growing, expanding, and they need we need to make certain adjustments to accommodate the growth. So that's what's going on. That will be going on for next season. So that being said, God bless you all, and see you next week with another interesting AI and faith installment. God bless you all, and God keep it. Hey, listen, it'd be a good idea to put your camera pointed there. Here's where you can make your donations and offerings to the ministry. God bless you, and God keep you.